Hey, fam, let me drop a wild story on you. All that happened right in my backyard. So, I got this golden ball of fur named Monty, a golden retriever that's more of a teddy bear than a dog. Life's good, until I got to deal with my neighbor Karen, who's basically the Grinch but for dogs. Now, Monty's my dude, and he loves doing his thing in the backyard. It's his kingdom, and he runs it like a pro. But this Karen lady, oh man, she's got a personal vendetta against anything with four legs. Monty gets too close to her precious yard, and she's out there waving her hands like she's directing traffic, screaming at the poor guy. Anyway, one day, I hear Monty yelping like he's auditioning for a doggy opera. I rush out, and there he is looking all pitiful. And what do I see? This devil in a wig, Karen, standing by her fence with this wicked grin. Monty's limping, and I'm seeing red. I'm like, what the hell, Karen? What did you do? And she hits me with, maybe if you trained your mutt, he'd know to stay away from my castle. I'm about to go Hulk mode on her, but she strolls away, tripping on the devil's garden she planted. Instant karma, right? But no, she's got this twisted satisfaction telling me it's my fault for not raising Monty to be a canine ninja respecting property lines. Fast forward to her trying to strut away, she eats it on her own trap. It's like poetic justice decided to drop by my backyard for a barbecue. She's on the ground, scratching herself up like a cat on a bad trip. So there I am, with a wounded Monty and a fallen Karen. I send Monty to the vet, and he's got Thorn induced trauma. Karen, on the other hand, is nursing scratches that make her look like she fought a rose bush and lost. Now, I ain't a vengeful soul, but when you mess with my pup, all bets are off. I call the cops, report her for animal cruelty, and throw in a ticket for Monty's vet bills for good measure. The officer on the line is probably thinking, what in the dog-loving drama is this? But hey, Karen deserved it. You don't mess with a man's best friend and get away with it. So there I am at the police station, filing a report against Karen, feeling like I'm in a crime drama where the victim is a four-legged fuzzball. The officer's typing away, probably wondering if this is some twisted episode of a reality show. A couple of days later, I get a call from the station. Karen got slapped with a fine for being the neighborhood's version of Cruella de Vil. Justice served on a silver platter, right? I roll up to her place, not to rub it in, but to let her know you can't mess with Monty and get away with it. She's sitting there nursing her wounds, looking like a defeated Disney villain. You should have thought twice before messing with my dog, I tell her, feeling like a low-budget action hero. She mumbles something about boundaries and property, but I'm not hearing it. I got Monty back, and that's all that matters. I walk away feeling like the hero in my own backyard saga. Now, every time Monty prances around, I make sure to give Karen a little wave. Not to rub it in, but to remind her that dogs rule and trying to harm them leads to thorny situations. The neighborhood might not have a superhero, but it sure has a golden defender in Monty. And Karen, well, she's the cautionary tale they tell newcomers about why you don't mess with the guy and his dog. Since I was younger, I've always noticed a difference in my father's family's treatment of me. I was the unplanned daughter in the middle of a divorce, while my older brother was expected and looked forward to by the family from an early age. At first, I didn't notice this difference. I just thought it was in my head, or that I was exaggerating, so I never paid much attention. For example, at parties, my family only liked me to go when my brother went. On commemorative dates, my brother got video games, remote control cars, or anything he asked for. Well, I received those little mirrors for $1.99 or a notebook for 5 materials with a random princess. I often cried and felt excluded, but the family said it was drama and there was no favoritism. The person who affected me the most was my paternal grandmother. Her life revolved around my brother. So let's get straight to the point. What made me realize this? In January 2020, when I was 15 years old, my father came to spend the holidays in Sao Paulo. He is from Minas Gerais. And he came up with the brilliant idea of spending time at my grandparents' farm. I was happy because he loved the farm. We went to my grandparents' house first so we could go to the farm early the next day. My brother didn't want to go because according to him, there was going to be an event on Star Tower Defense on Roblox and he couldn't miss it. So it was just me. When I arrived at her house, instead of greeting me, the first thing she said was, "Where's your brother? Didn't he come?" And I replied that he preferred to play, and she just shrugged and went to greet my father. During the day, she didn't stop commenting on how much she wanted her grandson to be here with her, but I ignored it because it could just be missed, right? We went early the next day. Before arriving at my grandparents' farm, we passed by the neighbor's farm, with whom I had a lot of friendship and affection, as I spent a lot of time with her. But when I looked inside, I saw that she had brought her grandchildren, and they are almost everyone my age. I was excited, and when we arrived at the place and unloaded our suitcase, the first thing I did was greet her grandchildren, who were childhood friends from that place, especially a specific friend. We read and talked about anime and manga. I asked my father if I could play with them, and he agreed. I spent the whole day there playing and having fun. When I returned, my grandmother was quiet, so my aunt came over to talk, saying that my grandmother was sad that I stopped staying with her to spend the day with the neighbor and her grandchildren since she was my grandmother, and I agreed with her and said that the next day I would spend the day with her and that she shouldn't worry. The next day, while my grandmother was making lunch, I was eating snacks with my cousins and talking to my aunt. My father and grandfather were away because my father had gotten sick and had food poisoning, so there were only the two of us left. While we were eating, my little cousin asked if he could go play with the neighbor's children. And my grandmother, who was cooking, butted in and said, "No, you can't," and my cousin asked why. Receiving the answer, "Don't be disobedient like certain people and go to other people's houses." I looked at her and said, "Was that a hint?" And she replied, "Yes, it was. If your brother was here, it would be much better. He wouldn't be being as disobedient as you. He could have come instead of you." And I exploded if he really cared. I wouldn't have preferred to play video games instead of coming to see you. And since I'm disobedient, I'm really going to be. I was going to spend the day with you. But since I'm not welcome, I'm leaving. I got up and ran to the neighbor. I met my friend and started crying. I stayed there until nightfall, and it was time to go home. I had called my mother and told her everything. She was furious and said she was going to talk to my father. But she asked me to go back to my grandparents' place and just ignore my grandmother since everyone was gone except my grandmother. I did what she said and came back in silence and went to lie down on the bed. When I was lying down, my grandmother sat on the sofa that was in the next room. There were no doors, so I could hear everything that was happening and see it too. She had sat down in front of the TV, and without looking at me, just standing still, she started to say, "Your father called me and told me that you called your mother. You always do that. You are just like your mother. It's horrible. Your brother should have come instead of you. You're not even your father's daughter." And he continued talking all night. I couldn't hear anymore because of the crying, and I slept in tears. The next day, when my father was at home, she was acting as if nothing had happened and came to talk to me normally. But I hadn't forgotten, and since we returned to the house, I didn't say anything to her, and not for a while after, until my birthday arrived in October, and she sent one to me from my brother, asking him to give it to me. When he said she gave me a gift, I gave it back to him and asked to give it back because I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. He was pissed off and didn't want to talk to me. And my family was upset too and didn't want to know what happened. And I told them what had happened, but they said that my grandmother had already told me everything, saying that I was super rude and that I had responded to everyone and that after scolding me, I didn't like it and ran to the neighbor after telling my grandfather to go to that place. I cut ties with all of them and told myself that I would no longer accept people who harm me in my life, but my father thinks I should apologize just to end this crappy atmosphere. Maybe I was the wrong one? My 16 mother, 45, has always been very entitled. She loves to be treated like a princess and whines and complains when she's not. Whenever I'm in the middle of something like homework or taking a nap, she will barge into my room and ask me to do something. And when I say, "Not right now," she says, "I'm not asking you. I'm telling you." Even though she does say, "Can you do the dishes?" or "Can you do the cat box?" Every time I say, "I'll do it later" or "not right now," she gets mad at me. She only does this to me. She never does this to my stepdad nor my sister. Today, when I said I was doing something, she said, "You're not when I was." She thinks that just because I'm on my iPad means that I'm not doing anything. I was literally working on homework, but she still insisted that I wasn't. Unfortunately, she passed this behavior on to my older sister, 27, but I'll talk about her in a different post. My mom is also very weird with food. If me or my sister or my stepdad buy food with our own money that's only for us and she can't have any, she gets upset. But if her or my stepdad buy food that's for everyone, she gets upset that it's either gone within a few days or she'll claim it as her own. She also talked food from my plate. It doesn't matter if I ordered it at a restaurant, or if she bought it, or if I made it for myself, or if someone literally gave it to me. She will always try to take some. She only does this to me. She will also just leave food to rot in the fridge and then get upset when someone eats it before it expires so it won't go to waste. But she'll get angry if it does go bad or if someone eats it because she won't. She also ate almost all my birthday cake. My birthday was the 10th, and it was a big cake that she and my stepdad made for me. I know it wasn't my stepdad because he doesn't really like the cake I got, Heath bar cake. And I know it wasn't my sister because she doesn't eat much stuff with sugar in it because she's trying to lose weight. I only had 2 slices and my mom ate almost the rest. There's only one left and I'm saving it for my dad, who doesn't live with us. I'm a transgender and she tries so hard to hide it. She tells me to not introduce myself as my preferred name and refuses to call me by my name and pronouns, even though I literally begged her because it made me feel awful, but she refuses. She gets mad when I tell people I'm a dude and always tries to hide it from her friends. She had tried so many times to make me be more feminine, but I refuse every time. She respects everyone else except for me. She always refuses to buy me binders and will refuse to get my hair cut until I literally cry. She will also ask for my trans friends' dead names and will still call me my dead name around my friends and my friends' parents. Thanks to this, I haven't come out to my sister or my stepdad, but I'm pretty sure my stepdad knows because he helps me look more masculine. Background context. I'm a 65-year-old white male with full white beard and a well-earned beer gut. At the time of this story, just after Thanksgiving, I was shopping at a fairly nice mall, Anchor Inn department store. Now, to be fair to the Karen in the story, I was wearing a bright red hoodie, but with old, nicely broken, in jeans and gray Merrell hiking boots, absolutely nothing like the business casual attire of the store employees. Also nowhere near a full Santa suit. I know, I've got one. Okay, the story. I'm browsing the kids' clothing, trying to find something cute for one of my granddaughters. She likes shirt, dresses, long shorts, and unicorns. I had a couple of her-sized t-shirts with the mythical beasties pictured on them in my cart and was seeking for shorts to go with them when I heard the call of the wild Karen. Excuse me, at a fairly high volume from somewhere behind me. Naturally, I ignored it, although I said a quick prayer for whatever luckless individual it was actually directed at. Silly me. Next thing to break my shopping focus was a painfully forceful 3-fingered, I know, because I felt 3 claws, blow to my shoulder hard enough to make me take an extra half step for balance. No mean feat, since I'm 6'2", 250 pounds. My fight, or flight reflex, opted for fight. Since I'm a mildly PTSD veteran with AI-44 Bulldog revolver on my hip, yes, I have a permit. And no, this store does not forbid legally carried weapons. I whip around to face my assailant, stepping back to open up space. My right hand instinctively going to my holster, more to ensure no one is grabbing for my pistol than in any thought to pull it. My left coming up with fist clenched. Apparently this startled a squawk from Karen, a 40-year-old woman with an elementary age-looking child in tow. She takes a half step back and I relax a bit. We eye each other for a half second or so in silence. I recover first. What is wrong with you? Why did you hit me? I bellowed. She's very contrite, mumbles an apology and flees. Just kidding. With typical Karen logic, she screeches, I did no such thing. And if you weren't ignoring customers, I wouldn't have had to. Me. I don't. Karen. Now take me to your village or whatever. My niece wants her picture with you. Me. What? I actually said that. I think my brain locked for a second trying to make sense of this nonsensical topic shift. Karen. You know, where you take pictures of kids. Me. Lady, I'm not a photographer. Total confusion now. I mean, I'm thinking, did I have a stroke or is she having one? Karen. Of course not. The kids sit on you and get their picture taken. What kind of Santa are you? Me, brain gears finally meshing, remembering the color of my sweatshirt. Mom, I'm not Santa. I'm a shopper, just like you. Karen, puzzlement finally replacing entitled wrath on her face. Well, then you shouldn't dress like one. You're just a tease. Me, shaking my head. So I shouldn't wear jeans? At that, I start to hear laughter. The kind of suppressed snort that gets away from someone who can't keep glee inside anymore. I turn and see a couple of employees and a few customers I hadn't noticed before with various expressions, ranging from mouth-covered snickering to red-faced, cheek-puffed grins. So does Karen, who stalks away without another word. Hardly my best back, but at least it pleases the peanut gallery. I simply bowed and went back to shopping.